I'm going to read this article just, so we can see where the culture is going, okay? And now we have to understand, why do we fast? Why do we pray? Why do we mortify ourselves? Beginning first in our vocations, our families, but also this is how we wage militancy by using our bodies. As St. Paul says in Romans 12, make your body a living sacrifice. Do not conform yourself to the spirit of this age, but be a living sacrifice, right? Offer your bodies as a living sacrifice. So this is, St. Peter, we are a royal priesthood offering sacrifices to God. So why? Okay, I'll give you one. I'll give you a couple examples. Not that we have to show the practicality, right? All right, this is Democrat chair. This is in Massachusetts. Local chairman of the Democratic Party resigns, because he said disabled babies should be aborted to cut school costs. This is part of this is where we're headed column. Chairman of the local Massachusetts Democratic Committee has resigned after he suggested that unborn babies with disabilities should be aborted because they are a drain on the public school funding. The guy's last name is Hugo. He resigned as the chair of the Framingham Democratic Committee in Massachusetts on Thursday after a backlash continued. His statement shows he clearly had no understanding about how insensitive it was to suggest that disabled babies be killed in abortions just to cut costs. Again, we're moving. The battle is on. The battle is on. As abortion is getting limited in some states, the states that have abortion are getting over the top. They're moving into infanticide. He said, here's what he said. I've apologized profusely too many times, but it seems obvious to all objective observers, obvious, right, that there is something unusual about this particular crisis in that it has an extraordinary life. Time will tell as to why this has become a literally international story and why it's been amplified by the chair of the Ashland Republican Committee. So he's just blaming it. This is just this is politics. Is this state going to cover the cost of special education for Down syndrome affected child? He asked. How much does the Framingham Public School Department pay for unreimbursed special needs school transportation, specialized education, and durable supplies? After the meeting, in an email to a source, a local news to a news outlet, this guy Hugo claimed that the comments were made in haste and he regrets them. He also asked the news outlet not to run an article about him, arguing it would only cause additional harm. Yes. And so later in the article, it mentions Margaret Sanger, who was one of the first to really develop this. Well, it's called utilitarian ethics. And here's what Margaret Sanger, the founder of Planned Parenthood, said. She was a eugenicist, right? She said, certain groups, especially the poor people with disabilities, were unfit and should be weeded out of society. Their lives are hopeless repetitions, she wrote in 1925. All that they have said has been said before. All that they've been done has been done after before. Such human weeds clog up the path, drain up the energies and resources of this little earth. We must clear the way for a better world. We must cultivate our garden. Listen to that language, garden. That right? Unbelievable. She also said, by the way, we need abortion. She also said we need abortion to rid the planet of the brown and yellow menace. She says, and that's public knowledge. People have gotten in trouble for saying that. Can you imagine that? But she actually said it. As part of her eugenic program. Absolutely disgraceful, not surprising, but just disgraceful. And I just wanted to shed the light of truth on it, and just want to get your take on that article.
Well, I right away, the first thing that hit my head was, is this like total euthanasia? And this is what are we in Nazi Germany, where we're starting to take out our own babies now because they're malformed? But if we think about what's going on, really go back to ancient Greece, go back to the old Romans, the pagan aspect of it, where they used to, if there was a deformity in the babies, they would offer it up to their gods and leave it on a stone somewhere. And of course, who came along and picked them up? The Christians. Yeah. So this is not said anymore. This is not PC enough for everybody. But as warriors, Christians have always been there to save lives.
Yeah, that is a great snag from history. You're absolutely right. I forgot about that. They would abandon, again, societies without God falls into utilitarianism. You know, it was said the Spartans, and look, we all love the Spartans because they were a warrior culture. But how did they become a warrior culture? If you were born with a defect, you were cast out.
Right.
You were thrown out, right? You were thrown out of the culture. I mean, you were thrown out to die as an infant, left to die. Philosophically, this is called utilitarian ethics or consequentialism. Consequentialism means it's a rightness or wrongness of an action is based upon the consequences and the accumulated, the scale weighs out. Is society better or this one individual better? Right? It's also hedonistic. So here's what they say: the greatest good is not based on God or natural law, right, or man's innate dignity. The greatest good is what will help the greatest number of people. So what are their principles? Pleasure and happiness are the only things that have intrinsic value. Think about that. Pleasure and happiness are the only things that have intrinsic value. And to have pleasure and to have happiness, we need public money, right? We need to have enough of other people's money because it's not their own money that they're spending, these progressives. It's our money. Small businesses and taxpayers, they need other people's money. And so pleasure and happiness are the only things that have intrinsic value versus we have intrinsic value because we are human and made in the image and likeness of God. And so actions are right to the extent that they increase happiness and pleasure, and actions are wrong to the extent that they decrease or increase unhappiness and a lack of pleasure. This is straight up diabolic scene. You're looking at a culture, as Father Rippergard said today and earlier in our conference. He said that society, by and large, is our culture, our society, our government, suffering from mental illness, and you're seeing this, and you have the societal mental illness, and now the demon is just projecting some of the most evil stuff. I mean, you actually have heads of political parties, in this case, the Democratic chair, advocating for euthanasia, killing children, because what's next if they don't have blonde hair, blue eyes? Do we kill those babies? Do we kill those babies if they do? Do we kill we just did you see this? Who was it? Was it the Kardashian that cryogenically froze multiple embryos because they were male and she wants a female?
I believe it was, I think it was one of them that actually did that. It was crazy that they're looking for a female, so they wanted that was just nuts.
Yeah, absolutely insane. So it's, again, utilitarian ethics. This is what we're up against. So we can't just wring our hands. You know what I mean? We can't just wring our hands. We have to say, what are we going to do? Now, the guys in the pro-life movement, those guys are out there battling. They're out there tearing it up, and this is all part of it. And these guys have seen this coming. So you have the states like Massachusetts and New Mexico, for example, that abortion is still legal. And they're not only getting a flood of abortions from other states, they're getting abortion funded by their own state, and abortion. Let me see if I find let me show you what the great state of New Mexico is doing. So they're going beyond. They're not just saying, okay, great, we have the woman's right to choose, we respect life. When you drive in from Texas through southern New Mexico, there's 2 billboards welcoming you. It looks like, and it says "Welcome to New Mexico," it looks like an official one from the state where your abortion is safe and legal. It's now abortion tourism. So we think, okay, abortion is legal. The states choose. That's fine. Here's what New Mexico has on the floor right now. This is an article that was an email sent out to the pro-life community. House Bill 7 is an infanticide bill, right? Mirroring the California infanticide bill, because you guys, it's the coast that are bringing it into the interior states, right? Oftentimes it's the West Coast and the East Coast. So yesterday in a party line, this was from 2 days ago, the Senate Judiciary Committee passed a radical HB 7, which mandates that public institutions and workers facilitate and participate in sex reassignment procedures and abortions. Okay. Additionally, New Mexico's Alliance Life, Elisa Martinez, who's a fantastic human being, by the way, and a warrior, who tried to run for Senate, by the way, and was not supported by the Republican Party for whatever reason. She's a great woman. Testified that this allows for infanticide for babies who survive abortions, or even denying medical care for sick babies up to 28 days post-birth. I have a good friend who just had their first child, and he was born premature, had all sorts of health problems. These guys just battled to keep this baby alive. The doctors, the hospital, they would just work their tails off to keep this baby alive. Under this bill, denying medical care for sick babies up to so if you don't make it 28 days, they'll leave you on the street corner, right? You're right back to the pagan days of pagan Rome when Christians were picking up babies. This is in New Mexico. By the way, we went in our little town, we went from 0 abortion clinics to 5, right, after Dodd, and one of them funding by our Catholic governor, right? We call her Wuhan Luhan. Can you imagine? So not only is it not enough that abortion is legal in her Catholic state, she's now funding her own. And the Church of Satan now has set up a clinic here, and all you have to do to get abortion there is do one of their rituals. You do a satanic ritual, and they'll issue you the abortion pill. Incredible.